Welcome back, dear viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review, and we are joined here in the studio with Ms. Eissa. She's an international law expert. Good morning, Sama.
Good morning.
And we start off from Al-Masri Al-Yawm newspaper, and we read the following headline. President Fattah al-Sisi receives a phone call from U.S. President Donald Trump. President Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from U.S. President Donald Trump, and during the call, the two leaders discussed bilateral relations between the two countries, as well as the upcoming Arab Islamic American Summit in Saudi Arabia. The U.S. President said that he's looking forward to meet with the President Sisi during the summit and praised the strategic relations between the two countries. So, Sama, how do you describe Egyptian-American relations at this stage and the significance of the Arab Islamic American Summit expected to take place in Saudi Arabia?
And particularly at this stage, it raises a bit of question mark, only because of the incident of the aid that has been stopped, because it raises a lot of question. If we consider the beginning of the relationship after Trump was announced to be the president, and the good relationship we have been able to view with President Fattah al-Sisi, however, we didn't see it coming that the funds would stop. How in other circumstances this wouldn't have been the case, but however we can use this summit, since the relation so far is very good with Egypt and the United States of America, to enhance this relationship not only in sayings and positive statement, but to have something tangible, like they say, the statement of sealing a deal. If this would be possible, so we can translate this good relationship into something tangible that can be invested within the country itself. Like, for instance, in the recent news that Saudi Arabia is going to receive weapons from the United States of America with billions of dollars. So this is something that we can call sealed a deal, something tangible. So I'm looking forward that to avoid the raising of the question, to have something tangible between Egypt and the United States of America as an initiative for the proving of good relationships.
Okay. And moving to Al-Yawm Al newspaper, and we read Prime Minister heads the Governor's Council. Prime Minister Sharif Ismail headed on Monday the Governor's Council with the participation of a number of ministers. The meeting tackled preparations for the holy month of Ramadan, including Ahlan Ramadan exhibitions in the governorates. The meeting also followed up the recommendations of the youth conference, which was held recently in Ismailia. The meeting also tackled the investment map in governorates, including investment and developmental projects. So, how do you evaluate the government's efforts to provide food commodities to citizens before the holy month of Ramadan?
Of course, it's highly appreciated. The government is doing lots of effort in this stage, but the critical issue comes to the pricing.
Yes.
Of course, there is a raise of the pricing, and it's inevitable, but this is something that's a fact that we have to deal with.
Yes.
The problem that is escalating out of this is that the prices is not equally raised in almost every area in Egypt, and this is because of the lack of supervision. So first we have a problem that the prices are rising.
Yes.
The other problem that it's completely left to the conscience of the buyers and the seller. And this is completely unacceptable in a country that is not, we're not a tribal country, we're a country of institutions. Therefore, there should be a supervision, a committee to stabilize the prices. But what if this is very hard to be done in Egypt, especially in the months of Ramadan, where everyone is running to the market to buy? The military should interfere. The military should go into the market with commodities, with the stable prices. By default, all the buyers that have no moral conscience, they're going to decrease their prices.
Yes. And moving to Al-Ahram newspaper, and we read Dr. Sahar Nasr meets with the head of the Silk Road Fund. Minister of Investment and International Cooperation, Dr. Sahar Nasr, met on Monday with head of the Silk Road Fund, Jinchi, on the sidelines of her participation in the Belt and Road Forum in Beijing. The two leaders discussed how Egypt can benefit from the fund's financing opportunities for the countries located on the Silk Road as part of the initiative to revive the ancient Silk Road, which was launched by Chinese President Xi Jinping. So also Dr. Sahar Nasr praised the strategic developments and investments relations between Egypt and China and expressed hope for more Chinese investments in the coming period. So how can this be achieved?
At this point, it has to be achieved some way or another, especially that we're there and we are in good relationship with China. The import and export, we need to get out of this arena and have China to come as a foreign investor within the country. But this, it's not going to happen unless we create a safe environment for foreign investors. A safe environment shall be created for the investors concerned to be addressed, whereas they have an easy access of their money in and out. Stability and security when it comes to their private business and investors when it comes to Egypt. So we can do a lot of effort, but if the root cause is not addressed, creating a safe environment for foreign investors, this is not going to happen. So we need to work, like, you know, the hierarchy, we need to work from the bottom to the top. We're talking about the top part, foreign investors, but the root cause is not addressed. So we need to work on creating a safe environment.
Moving to Al-Wafd newspaper, and we read unemployment rate falls to 12% in the first quarter of 2017, and the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics announced on Monday that the unemployment rate fell to 12% of the total labor force during the first quarter of 2017 compared to 12.4% in the fourth quarter of 2016. The Manpower report, which was presented by the head of the agency, Abu Bakr Al-Gindi, showed that the number of unemployed individuals reached 3.503 million, 12% of the total labor force. So this is a good piece of news, and in light of the current mega projects being implemented by the government, do you expect the employment rate to continue in falling?
So far, as you said, this is a very positive news, and if we carried on the same pattern we're following, there could be a sustainability in this situation or condition. However, the problem is that it's always not determined just by one factor. There's several factors concerning this, the stability and the rate. But in order to ensure the stability of the falling of the unemployment rate, something should have, like, for instance, a committee of counselors and experts just dedicated for an unemployment rate, because it's not just about the benefit of the youth. It will reflect back on the country, the economic system. This sect of the youth that goes into the market and want to work, they're going to refresh. They take from the upper part and they give from the lower part. They're going, keeping the cycle going. So we need to have a committee, group of experts dedicated to monitor and improve the unemployment rate in Egypt, because it will flourish the economy of the entire country, not just for the youth.
And moving to Al-Yawm Al-Saba newspaper, and we read, Minister of Planning announces Egypt's 2030 plan indicators. The Ministry of Planning announced the indicators of Egypt's 2030 Sustainable Development Plan. The indicators showed that Egypt targets an economic growth rate of 12% by 2030 through 2020, during which Egypt targets a growth rate of 10%. The ministry said that these targets will be achieved through the completion of the economic reform, reducing the ratio of public debt to GDP, reducing the total deficit to GDP, maintaining stable price levels, and achieving sustainable growth. So how can this 2030 plan be achieved?
In theory, the plan sounds very positive and is going to have a good prosperity in the future. My main concern is the continuity, and this is always the problem in Egypt. We're very good at startups, and the continuity of the project will definitely have the outcome, because in theory it's very well done.
And moving to Al-Watan newspaper, and we read the governor of Damascus declared on Monday that the Kabul district was completely free of terrorists, pointing to the end of the second and final stage of the exit of armed groups. The Syrian government forces are close to cementing their control over the entire capital under local deals with rebels after a 6-year war that has ravaged suburbs of Damascus and caused population displacements. Rebels have evacuated some of the last Damascus districts under their control, with over 2,000 civilians, and rebels evacuated the Kabul district after similar departures from Barza and Tishrin neighborhoods earlier last week. So, to what extent these developments in Syria will affect Astana talks?
They will definitely affect Astana talks, because we have two parallel events happening in the same time. Syria and the legitimate government is trying to gain land, and on the other hand, parallel at the same time, the Astana negotiations are taking place. So as they're negotiating, if they're losing land, whoever is negotiating, the rebels or whoever is trying to put conditions on legitimate government, they're losing ground. So it highly affects it completely reflects back on the negotiation that's happening in Astana. But if anything, if we think about what's happening between the lines, I think Bashar al-Assad went for the negotiations of Astana and agreed to the whole thing just to buy himself some time. Because you're negotiating, but if you're losing land, what's the best alternative? You have nothing to negotiate over. We're on the table. You have no cards to play with. So it looks like he was buying time through negotiations to gain more land. So whoever is negotiating against, they don't have cards to bargain with.
Yes. And moving to Al-Yom Al-Saba newspaper, and we read Macron names Edouard Philippe as French Prime Minister. Newly inaugurated French President Emmanuel Macron has appointed conservative Edouard Philippe as Prime Minister on Monday. The choice of a head of government from outside the President's party is an unprecedented move in post-war France. Philippe, a lawmaker and mayor of port city Le Havre, comes from the moderate wing and the right-wing Republicans Party. His appointment was seen as a strategic move by the 39-year-old Macron, is trying to woo modernizers of all stripes to his new centrist party, the République En Marche. So how do you see France under the new leadership?
First of all, France's election and the presidential race.
How did you follow it?
It was very interesting.
Yes.
It was like watching a thriller TV
Yes.
series with all the scandals day by day, and every time we think this person is going to win and seems like he's
Yes.
the highest potential. The second day he's out of the race with a huge scandal. It was very interesting to watch and to follow up, and it didn't seem like it's going to end up this way, especially that François Fillon was the highest prospered. Until now, I'm very upset that he didn't win,
Yes.
of course. But for this decision, it just reflects the beauty of the European mentality, that the benefit of the all comes before the personal benefit. He knows that if this person comes on board with the government,
Yes.
it will benefit France as a whole. So it's not personal, and this is what the Middle Eastern mentality when it comes to the political game need to learn, that the benefit of the whole, of the government, of the country comes before your own benefit. So it's good news, and I'm looking forward to see his coming footsteps.
Do you expect his foreign policy to be moderate with the Middle East?
Here's the thing, because the previous scandal just before the elections, they hacked his system, and he promised something for the economy and the plan, and the paper came out that it's not the same what he promised the French people. That's why I can't speculate, because in this race people are not what they seem.
Yes.
So we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, I'm moving to Al-Wafd and some economic news and the performance of the Egyptian stock markets. Egyptian bourse gains 1.5 billion pounds on Monday. The Egyptian bourse gained 1.5 billion pounds on Monday as its indices were mixed. The market's main index, EGX 30, was down 0.04% to reach 12,866.06 points. However, the small and medium shares index, EGX 70, was up 0.53% to reach 591.25 points. Similarly, the broader index, EGX 100, gained 0.56% to reach 1,367.82 points. Trading volume reached 287.8 million shares exchanged with 657.3 million pounds. The market's capital gained 1.5 billion pounds to reach 666.6 billion pounds. Arab investors tended for buying with 10.6 million pounds, while Egyptian and foreign investors tended for selling with 10.5 million pounds and 165,000 pounds respectively. And moving to Al-Akhbar and the weather conditions, as meteorologists predict a slight decrease in temperatures. Meteorologists predict a slight decrease in temperatures on Tuesday, with hot weather expected to prevail on the north of the country, the Delta, Cairo, and the north of Upper Egypt. Meanwhile, very hot weather is expected to prevail on the south of Upper Egypt during daytime, but it will be moderate at night. The temperatures in Cairo are expected to be 20 to 34. Low and medium level clouds are expected on the northwestern coasts and the south of the country, accompanied by rain. Mist will affect visibility in the morning on the northeastern coasts, the Delta, Cairo, and the Canal City. Well, dear viewers, this was our last news item in our daily press review, and I'd like to thank my guest for today, Ms. Eissa, international law expert. Thank you for being with us. Now, dear viewers, we'll go for a short break, and we'll be back with the breakfast show, so stay tuned.